So let me start out with, normally we do a couple times a year have speakers up here, and they have product to sell if you like what they've got, which means they've gone and putting it all together, and it's something you can put on your library shelf, and when you need it, it's ready, right? And then there's those of us that are just teachers. And a teacher means you have to take really good notes. And you have to be able to find those notes when you need them, okay? And then you have to be able to read those notes when the time comes. So we're not going to go through my bio. Obviously, I've been around for a long time. I've got 3 radio shows. I've got 2 bestsellers. So you've seen me here, there, or everywhere. I'm always the short, old one up front. So, okay. Good enough. And if you want, my bio is on the back of your podcast. So we're going to get started. And this is a regular class. How many are really good at taking notes? And how many would actually like a cheat sheet? Nobody? Oh, everybody. Oh, okay. Can we have somebody hand these out for us, please? Thank you, Michael. Thank you. You're a treasure today. Okay. So what we're going to do today is called Cool Contracts, Clauses, and Addenda. It's also known as non-eviction landlording. And it's also known as you don't know what you don't know. So this is audience participation, actually. So if you have a question, we do have a microphone. Is that correct, Mike? We got a microphone, Mike? We do. Okay. But keep in the back of your mind that the more and longer questions we have, the possibility that you won't get through everything. So we have to temper it between questions and getting through all the stuff for you, okay? So one of the biggest questions that we often get is, starting right off at the top of, no, I don't. Yes, I do. They brought them back. Okay. Mine actually says at the very top, standard real estate rental agreement. Why is that important? Because it sets the mood. It sets the thought pattern for the person, he just grabbed him over here, for the person that is signing the paper. Is it not a little bit more calming to know that this is a standard rental agreement? Like you just took it off of a shelf, which you did. You took it off of your shelf. And it is your standard. And it is your rental agreement. Correct? We got that? But it never hurts to put them at ease, right? Okay. So I just want to make sure you knew that. And, oh, mine's on reverse. So this is going to be fun tonight. Terms. What if you do not renew? Is that a problem? Anybody ever had that? Well, I'll bet you every one of your leases has a section called terms. And that tells what happens if they don't renew. So a lease may extend after the end date or the expiration date to a month to month. Of course, you can go in and renew it for a year, but now you've kind of had those tenants for a year. Do you want to renew them for a year? Sometimes in single-family houses, that's true. But if there have been more problems than they're worth, or water expenses are going crazy, or they break everything, then maybe you want to stick with a month-to-month. Because a month-to-month gives you the option to end the lease anytime you want. Can the tenant not end the lease anytime they want? Sure, the U-Haul comes in the middle of the night and there they go. Right? Really? Do they give you a forwarding address so you can go after them? Of course not. Remember though, if they don't give you a forwarding address, who keeps the deposit? You do. Ohio law. They must give you a forwarding address. Not, I'll meet you on some street corner somewhere and you give me my money, right? Doesn't work that way. Of course, those that leave in the middle of the night usually owe you as opposed to you owing them. But I'm just saying, if somebody comes back later and tells you you didn't give them their deposit, because remember in Ohio, the law is you owe them double the deposit. And with attorney's fees, it could be triple the deposit. So you have 30 days. 30 days to make a list. What kind of list is it? Everything that's wrong and what it cost. And if you're like me, there's at least a half a dozen things in there that says no charge. I'm going to paint it anyhow. So paint is on there, no charge. Now if they have black magic markers and crayons and I had to do a pre-paint prior to that, they get charged for that. That's not just a paint job. So again, why do I put a bunch in there that says no charge? Because if I don't, guess who will? The judge. The judge will go through and pick what he decides is wear and tear. Not for me. Not interested in that. Matter of fact, I'm going to hand out, if you don't mind, I've got 2 papers here that I live by. You want to split that with Mike? Thank you. Number 1 is a checklist, whether it's a rent-to-own or it's a lease or it's a land contract. If I want keys, if I want pictures, if I want confirmation numbers, it's always on my list. That's the first page of my lease. That's for me. In my mid-70s, I forget a lot of things. But I don't want to forget anything that I need when I show up and say, we'll do it later. Because there's a lot of things I don't want them to do it later. All right. On the other side is something that is very, very important nowadays. We got somebody in a holding tank right now as a landlord because, or not as a landlord, as a repairman, because we sent them over alone to do a repair job, and a lady decided to put charges against him. So here are the commandments for sending repair people. If you take a look through these, you're going to be very happy with them. Very happy. You do not enter a rental property without authorization, both from us, and we've already posted it for the tenant. And while we're on that subject, do you need the tenant's permission to enter? How many say yes? How many say no? The law says you must give notification. Does that mean you need their permission? No. What happens when you want to show the house because you're selling it? What happens if you want just to see what the heck's going on? All you have to do is give notification. It doesn't give you a time limit, but the use, the normal that's given is, they say 24 hours. So if you give a notice the day before that you're going in, of course with an emergency where the water's coming out the windows, you don't necessarily have to do that. But just to give you an idea. But knock before entering. Wouldn't they anyhow? I'm just telling you, this is what you give your repair people. Always go in pairs if possible, especially if you know it's a female household and there's only men there, or vice versa. Do not discuss landlord, management, or other tenants when the tenant's talking to you. Do repairmen do that? Of course, because your tenant's right there, 2 inches from their back while they're trying to work, which nowadays is COVID rules. They must unlock the door, leave the room. We enforce that still, okay? So again, they start saying, well, what about this tenant? Can I do this? Can I do that? And of course, the repairman's just being friendly. But being friendly means he's offering to do something sometimes. So again, do and complete only work that is on the work order. Because they're going to ask you to do 10 other things on your way out. All right? You have to get permission. It's the same thing when you're there. You're not the owner. I'll ask the office. I always have to ask the office. I don't care if they tell me that their teenager wants to paint the room black. I'll check with the office. It gives them time to cool off, gives you time to think of an answer or an excuse or whatever, and it might even be something good. Can I change my furnace filters? Let me check with the office. And maybe I'll drop off the furnace filters because I want to know what they're putting in the furnace. So even when it's a good thing, treat it like a business. I have to ask the office. Do not make comments or observations about any repairs that you're doing or any repairs that they're asking you to do. Do not move any personal items. You go down to fix the water heater and there's clothes from here to the water heater and up to your knees. Oh, you can just walk across those. No, ma'am, I can't. Not only that, you need to remove those because furnaces and water heaters that are gas are combustible. They need to breathe. You need to have not the fumes, balling up. No, you must move them. I'll stand here and wait. Okay? If you don't tell them this, they're not going to have the chutzpah, shall we say it to the tenant. Let's go, oh, right here, I have to ask you to move those things. No, I can't move your couch to get to the electrical outlet. You will have to do that. If there's exceptions, if I got a 90-year-old lady, I'm going to make arrangements so that we can move whatever needs to be moved. Always be professional, courteous, and considerate. Do not make comments with any sexual annotation, even if they answer the door in the see-through nighties. You say, oh, I got an emergency call. We'll have to come back. Give them the answers. Your repairman's going to be in shock, right? So give them the rules. It'll help you and it'll help them. Let's talk about possession. As soon as I figure out here. Oh, can a tenant refuse to occupy? Does that break the lease? Do you care if they occupy? Do you care if two tenants, one leaves and one doesn't? Do you care? It should not care. It doesn't say you have to occupy. They have the use of it if they wish to occupy it. Somebody says, well, I was on vacation for 3 months. I shouldn't have to pay for those 3 months. That's not the answer. The answer is, could I re-rent it for those 3 months? Well, no, my stuff's in there. The same thing when they've moved out and their stuff is still there. Well, I'm not living there anymore. You can't charge me for that month. Are you allowing me to rent it to somebody else with your stuff in there? Of course not. So, again, they do not have to do that. And there it is. Resident may terminate this agreement if possession is not delivered from us to them, if we're telling them they can't go in, but as long as the premises is habitable, the resident may not unreasonably refuse to occupy. So they not only owe that month, they owe the full lease. Your lease is for the full year if that's what you signed up for. Okay? So it's not necessary they don't. How do I increase rent without losing my tenant? I've got one that had a tenant there for 13 years and never raised the rent. You shouldn't have to raise the rent. It should be in your lease, automatic. Rent is payable month in advance at the rate $50 higher than advertised. I'll explain that why. And shall be annually adjusted unless otherwise notified. Mine says 10%. But how nice it is on that second or third year, you go, oh, we were able to get the taxes down, or, water isn't as bad as it used to be. I've never said that, ever. We're only going to do 7% this year. Are they happy to pay the 7 instead of mad that it's going up at all? So it's all in how you do it. So you could say, we're only going up 5%. We're only going up 1. Oh, no, you don't have to go 10. But 10 is in there. It's automatic. It's every year. You don't have to confront them and put it in their face so they have to think about it. It's automated. And the reason I mention $50 higher than advertised is, okay, I got a house for $700. I advertise it. People come. They decide they're going to take it. My lease actually says $750. And that's the first question I get. Why is this $750? Because the next line says you get a $50 discount every time you pay on time or early. So now, mine says $750 when I go to court. So what's the rent? I'm getting my rent and my late fee. Because what's that judge not going to do? He's not going to give you no late fees or pet fees or anything like that. And besides, it's a positive connotation, not a negative one. You know, you aren't getting a late fee, you're getting a bonus. And yet I have some tenants that pay that $50 extra every month for years. And they're happy to do it. I'm happy to take it. I'm fine with it. Okay? So again, it's automatically in your lease. It's not a contention. Rent increases again. Money received, and this is one of the most important parts of your whole lease. If you don't put anything else in it, this will solve all your problems. This is telling you that when they pay their money, it's going to go to the late fees, the pet fees, the water bill, the grass because we had to come and do it. It's going to go to all those things you owe, the window you broke. Those are all get paid first, and then the balance goes towards the rent, which makes their rent short if they haven't paid what they were supposed to pay, right? So now there's only two kinds of evictions in Lucas County. One is non-payment of rent and water, and the other one is everything else, and that's a 30-day. So now you just made sure that everything that you're yelling at them for, you know, to fix the broken windows or to clean up the yard or quit getting tickets or whatever, it's tied to the money. If you have to, and I don't argue with my tenants. If the grass is up to my knees, I just post a notice on the door. The crew will be here this weekend. If you want to do it before that, feel free. You know, get some neighborhood kid to do it for you. I mean, good Lord, I use senior citizens who need some extra income. So I have seniors do my vacant houses, and I just add this house to it, and then it tells them, the notice says that the bill will be sent to them. If they don't pay the bill by the time that the rent is due the next time, where does it get paid? It gets paid out of the money for the rent first. What do you think? Like it? Anything good so far? It's so quiet out there. I haven't put anybody to sleep yet, have I? Okay. Discounts versus late fees. We already started talking about this. Discounts for prompt payment and maintenance, because it also says, since I'm giving you a discount, all the minor maintenance is in your basket, not mine. So I'm getting something for that extra, right? So it's due the first day of the month. Now, I do have third day of the month for all my senior citizens because I know they don't get paid to the third day of the month. So you can make that date whatever you want. Okay? Should I accept late rent? This gives you a choice. You don't have to. I just took two $1,000 and $1,100 checks to court with me. The checks came in the mail. They thought they were going to beat the eviction that way. I took them to court with me, so it was still my choice. I could hand those checks back to them and be done with it, or I could accept the checks and put them in the bank after they paid all the late fees that were supposed to be with that. So that's the one I said I'm in court with right now. So again, this lets them know that it's $5 a day. If you go with Rent Perfect, one of our vendor members, they automatically send them an email on the 2nd of every month that says, now you owe $705. They get one the next day. Well, actually it says $755 because their rent was $700. They got a $50 non-bonus because they didn't get the bonus, the early bird, and it's $5 a day. So it's $755 on day 2. It's $760 on day 3, and they get the notices. It doesn't cost me anything to send it out. It's automated. I can't send it out to 75 different tenants. So again, it's automated. Do you know what it costs to be a member of Rent Perfect if you're a member of Toledo REIA? Anybody want to tell me? Anybody guess? 95 cents. Not a day, not a week, not a year, just 95 cents. Because you have to create a togetherness. You have to create a business entity between the two for them to be able to pull all your credit reports for you, for the detective agent to do that, okay? So, so that gives you the link so that they can do all the government end of it. Okay. Oh, bad checks. I don't know about you, but once is enough for me. A bad check on, and I'm seeing less and less of those because you're not seeing a whole lot of people with checking accounts anymore. So I got to tell you, I was yelling at my great-grandson because he started working for me. He's 14, started working for me, and I took him to open up an account, and he couldn't sign his name. He says, they don't teach us cursive in school. Or he's out of right is what he said. And I go, what do you mean? So we're in the credit union, and I've got the app up, and I said, you got to be able to sign your name. And he says, I said, how are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to write checks? And he goes, what are checks, Grandma? He said, here, give me your phone. He says, you just press right there where it says bill pay. And you don't need no envelopes and stamps and checks. So we can all learn something from somebody, can't we? That saved me 75 water bills that I was sending in. So again, it only takes asking the question to get an answer that will blow your mind. So after that, of course, we ask for anything but. And they have all kinds of cash apps and everything now, too. I send mine through Rent Perfect. If they do your application, they give you renter's insurance for $5. Give them renter's insurance, but your name's on it in case they do break something big, okay? And then they also collect the money. It goes right to my account, but they never see my account bank, my number, my anything. All of this is free. I think they get charged $3 to do it, which is probably what they get charged on Cash App or anything else. The problem is every one of your tenants has a different Cash App or Venmo or whatever, you know. Okay, is there ever an early release? I use military, I use senior citizens. Sometimes they have to go into assisted living, although I now have 3 assisted living houses of my own. And my tenants did it. I didn't do anything. All right, you just got to listen, right? So I do have an early release. But it has rules that they have to follow that would make it okay with me for them to get the release, such as giving a 60-day notice, which is what it says in their lease anyhow. So, okay, things happen, especially with COVID. So give us a 60-day notice, all right? Also, you pay all the monies due so that you don't owe for all the months that you aren't going to stay there, because if they just leave, you can still take them to court for the whole lease, until which time you re-rent, right? You do have to try. Okay, so they pay all the monies they owe. They give you 1 month's rent for a release fee. They let you put a sign out front, and they let you show the property and put another tenant in it. It's as simple as that. And once you explain that to them, they're usually pretty happy about it. It also tells what all they have to do. And we actually have, at that time, I post them a letter. Has anybody heard of a move-out clean letter? Me neither. You really think they know how to move out clean? Like what you, of course they don't. They have no, you know what? It was so bad that it was getting to the point, boy, we're going to have to give you a pizza or something to keep your energy up. And I had to go to a camp to learn this, okay? Sometimes you just have to tell them what to do. So the front of it is just a letter from me repeating this. Here's what you have to do. I'm not expecting you to go back and find your lease, read it, and follow it, even though you should be motivated if you're going to be getting out of $700 a month for 8 more months, you know? But the back is very good. It says the rental agreement states, and then, you know, clean and wash the insides of your kitchen cabinets and sink fixtures and that type of stuff 3 weeks ahead of time. You won't have time when you're moving. I was to the point where they took what they wanted and left everything else. And I think they just trashed everything else to make sure they didn't miss anything. It was like I was taking dumpsters to move outs, you know, it was like crazy. So again, this tells them how to do it, but here's the kicker. Go down to the bottom and read the last lines. This is where it tells them this is how you get your deposit back. And you can't just disappear. You turn in the key and you get your deposit within 30 days. So again,
we have a question, Anna.
do we allow questions?
No, it's not a question, it's a comment. Anna, I've only been a landlord for 50 plus years.
Yeah.
Okay? This is what I call my Bible. This is in my lease, plus a dollar amount of what each of these cleaning fees are. And so they get this the first day they move in, they get this when they sign the lease.
We got one for you.
Oh yeah, and it works. It works.
That works. Sure does. Sometimes you just have to tell them. They live a different life than you do. They live a different world than they do. They are immediate, what's in front of their face at the moment. They're not planning ahead. They're not planning behind. They go from day to day, and that's probably why they're leaving. Day to day did not work out too good when you're not planning your expenses. So, again, I was amazed at the fact that how many, it doesn't work all the time, but even if it worked once, I was happy. But I was amazed at how many times I post this on the door, and I actually walked in, and if nothing else, they cleaned everything out. You know, they put it in the trash and put the trash cans out if that's what it was. So sometimes it's just the simplest things. It was a mess when I moved in. Isn't that their answer? Isn't that what they tell the judge? I just get this look on my face and I go, oh, why would you even move in then? How's that work? Pretty good? I'll try it. Why would you even move in then? It works really good in court, especially when they're saying, well, the windows were broken and the furnace didn't work. And I had one that I had 3 in a row, and we were working out payment deals, and they didn't want no payment deals. Then our attorney, REIA's attorney, shows up for the eviction, very reasonable. As soon as he showed up, oh, this is serious. She's being serious. So they're saying, there's maggots on the floor, there's bugs, there's rats, there's all this stuff. And Matt's going, okay, do you want to make a payment plan or don't you? And he goes in and tells the judge, they didn't want to make a payment plan. That's all judge wants to know. Can you be out this weekend? Can you be out next weekend? You know, so again, he doesn't want to listen to it any more than you do, because my answer would have been, oh, why would you even move in? So anyhow, where are we at here? As is. But to defend against that, you are you are renting it as is. And it lets them know right there that they have their 7 days, because that's kind of what Ohio likes. They have 7 days to report to you anything that needs to be done in writing. Do you have anything in writing? Or are they just saying this when they're out of money? They didn't win at the horse track. I don't know. So I just want to let you know. And I'm going to, well, let's go ahead and pass this out. This is what she was talking about, so we're going to bring it up early. By the way, this side of it is the lead law for Ohio. The lead disclosure, which means you have to give it to everyone. This should be the last page of your lease on every one of your leases. This needs to be in your file. It's a $37,000 fine if you don't have it. So it should be the last page of your lease. Okay? This is the law. Make sure you've got it. And all you're doing here is it says, is there any reports? You put, no, there's no reports. You know, if you've ever been cited for lead paint. And then the second one is, yes or no, do you have any to pass on? It's as simple as that, okay? And then they sign right here that they received it. That's what you want. You want their signature that they received it, and you want it in your file. Okay, now flip over to the other side. This is what Kathy was talking about. Now, it doesn't show the lines on here. I was saving on printing costs for you guys. By the way, I went to Office Depot, and all this stuff for you today was just under $500. And after we put the Toledo REIA discount on it, which you all have, it came to $67. And this was with color. And the guy kept telling me, it's 72 cents a side for color. You sure you want color? And I go, yeah, I want the Home Depot to be color. And, you know, he goes, are you sure? So he rings it all up. And again, this is a corporate discount that you have. As soon as I give him my SPC number, and it went down to almost, you know, $50, he's just there going, I'm just handing my credit card, I'm ready to go. So again, what's important about this is I like it because it's on a spreadsheet, which means when it's move out time and time, I use the same paper to return their deposit. So there's an extra line here, and why there's an extra line? Because this is where I put in, if they didn't have this stuff cleaned, if they just have this stuff broken, I put the prices in there. Down here at paint, I put no charge. Pre-paint, charge, okay? And it automatically adds it up at the bottom. That's why I have it on a spreadsheet, okay? It's automated. The work is all done for you. And it helps me remember to look at these things when I'm going through the house to see if that's it. Now, on the last one on miscellaneous is always changes to whatever that particular property or person was doing. These are all the personal things like we had to clean up the dog do or whatever, or the garage collapsed. Right, Mark?
Anna, my question is, you had mentioned a number that you gave about making your copies. What number is that you're referencing?
Toledo REIA has an SPC number,
Okay,
which we hand out, which if you don't have, we can get you one.
I love one.
All members get one. And you can hand them out to your churches and teachers and that too. Because the more we use it, the better the prices become. How about that? Okay, so this is really useful to get your deposit information back to them within the 30 days. It looks very professional. It looks like an office. You know, it looks really good in court because you have all the zeros too. I actually go ahead, the ones that I use, I highlight in red so that the other ones are like in gray, you know, so they kind of go to the background. Then the ones I use are the ones that stick out. It's as simple as that. Could somebody use that? Now I'm showing this one. Everybody should be using this one. This is the lead law. $37,000 fine. Okay, all right. But we like you to use the other side too, if that helps. So that's what she was talking about, having it all ready to go. And this is the as is. And if you didn't get that back with the list, and actually, when I'm taking the money and signing the lease and everything, on that cover sheet, I think you'll find a place that right above the money amounts, it says fix this. So if they say there's dust on the windowsill, or one of the blinds is broken, I put that down. And I keep that with my file too. And if I have to go to court and they say that place was a mess, this is all they turned in. Dusty windowsills, put a no door on maybe, something like that, okay? That's all they complained about moving in. If there was maggots on the floor and the furnace didn't work, you think they would have asked for those to be fixed? So even if they don't turn that in, I have that second page, the list that I gave you first to take care of that. So we're saying the house isn't in perfect condition. These aren't new houses. We're giving it to you as is. We're just asking it for it back in the same way. And of course, we have pictures, which Rent Perfect also has MIMO, which is move in, move out pictures that you can keep right with the file. Can I paint? I'm a professional. I do it all the time. Here's my answer. No. If you ever thought you had wood floors or carpeting or nice woodwork, they always drop the paint. Always drop the paint. And even if they're the best painter in the world, they're going to paint it purple or black or orange. And how many times are you going to have to cover that up? How many times? So what we say instead is, I offer, you know, but after the first year you're with us, if you want to stay, we'll come in and paint your house for you. we'll repaint it as long as all your furniture is into the center, covered with a tarp. I'll come in and do the rooms. I just did that last week for the first time in 47 years. And I was thinking, do I really want her to stay? But I'm good. I started out just a single female with 2 teenagers that like to sleep instead of work at night. So I would go in at midnight, and I can have a 3-bedroom house painted by morning because I couldn't pay the mortgage, right? I had to be able to have a tenant in there. So it's no skin off my nose, but that's what I offer. But that's one of those things about alterations. Painting is an alteration new. That's how I feel about it. And it comes under alterations. So I have it added in there. You need prior written permission to do anything, because if I want to, they can offer it in writing, and I'll give it back to them in writing. Okay? Gives me time to think it over and decide if that's what the tenant wants. How many people find that there's more people living in the house than what you rented to? All the time. Sometimes ones you don't even know. Sometimes the ones that you do know aren't even there anymore. It gets so crazy, right? Now, granted, nowadays, I don't get in too much on the children, and as soon as I was taking applications on my own, and I'm watching my granddaughter's kids permanently, and my son's kids have to come and stay with me on weekend. As soon as it got messy like that, I knew it was coming. So I have on the lease, it just says a place for how many adults, how many kids in general. I don't take any kid information at all. But how do I protect about making sure that who's in there is supposed to be in there? So this is under use. You can put down how many adults and how many kids, but the kicker is occupancy by guests staying over 14 days. Okay, somebody can come visit you, or obviously if there's medical and a caretaker, that's all in writing. You don't have to worry about it. They got plenty of documentation for that. But if they're not on the lease, and I pretty much let them think that the government wants them on the lease because that's where we're going with this, right? If they're not on the lease, it's $100 a person. And if you didn't tell us and we're finding out ourselves, it's retroactive to the beginning of the lease. So that gives you some negotiating room, okay? Well, if they're going to stay, they need to be on the lease. Because when you go to court, only the ones on the lease or the ones you can name are going to be the ones that will be taking the monetary hit when you're going after them for money. So again, it all comes back to running it like a business. So you're going to see this further on too. So again, it's your option. Oh, okay, I realize they're only there a month. We'll put them on the lease from last month, whatever. I didn't do it. It was there. The neighbor's kids did it. Does it matter? No, it doesn't matter. That's why you don't get into that argument. It says that everything must comply with state, county, municipal. So if somebody's doing something wrong, doesn't matter. The lease says everything has to comply. Residents shall not use or permit to be used any disorderly, unlawful. Again, this is your clause to get them out on anything besides non-payment of rent. This doesn't say they have to be convicted, but you do need police reports. So when somebody calls and complains, what do you tell them to do? The police won't take a report from me. You have to do a police. You have to get me a police report. If it's domestic violence, I think it's the law that you have to go in and change the locks. But who did the police take away? Him or her? You don't know. You need the police report to change the locks. Otherwise, the other person can come and say, you changed the locks on me, all right? So the law backs you up on a few things like that. So resident takes full liability of the conduct of any of the guests or anybody on the property, or they'll have a police report. If somebody has come in and attacked the place, they'll have a police report, right? So again, ties it back. House rules, and this means everybody. So I always have house rules. It starts with locks and alarms. Some of these might be a little outdated because I'm thinking about changing mine. Nowadays, you can put alarms in that they don't have to drill holes through every place in the house, right? They're wireless now. So I tell them I don't care if they want to do wireless, but it's still in there in case they want to get crazy and do the wired one for some reason nowadays. So, and they can't change the locks. So if they change the locks and I have a locksmith out there, who pays for it? They do. Who's got the right to get a locksmith out there because it's in the lease? You do. Who has the paper with them so they can show it to the police if they call the police? Right here, says I can change the locks. Never hurts to have paperwork with you when you're going out there because, you know, they're always going to think they're in the right. Okay. What my utilities got cut off. Again, we call this the red tag. What can happen if they get the utilities turned off, especially the gas, when it comes time to get them turned back on? I'm licensed. I can tell you what happens. If you normally blow a 10, they're going to blow 100. They're testing the lines. Also because they also work on the side, and they'll tell you they work on the side, and if they blow it and you can't pass, they'll come back and fix it for you. You know? So, again, part of the problem is not get them turned off to start with. Some tenants think it's cheaper to get their gas turned off during the summer when they don't need the heat. I don't know what they're doing for hot water, but let's not go there. So, again, it's called the red tag, and this says, even if the bill is in my name, which only in the multi-units, the water is in my name, and they're having the utilities cut off for non-payment, for just because they think it's cheaper that way, for whatever reason, if they won't turn on my furnace and they won't turn on the water heater, who's responsible? They are. Says so right here. Okay? Good housekeeping. We're getting into the bed bug stuff and I'm scratching already. Okay. So it is up to them to keep it in good condition for whatever reason. I mean, I've had hoarder houses. I've had people not take the trash out when it's free to take it out. All kinds of things like that. And it accumulates if nobody's taking care of it like you want it to. Oops, too late. We got critters. In our multi-units, especially the one-bedrooms, we do have one of our vendor members, Stanchion and Son, Pest Control, come out every other week. Just because they're buying things at used stores and garage sales and, you know, all kinds of things like that. So we do have that precaution. So I'm telling my people, if you get something, I don't care if your cat gets fleas or whatever, you need to let us know. This says you have to let us know so that we can take precautions. Not because we're going to pay for it, but because we don't want it to get infested. You know, we don't want an infestation. So this says that they hold you harmless, including all your agents, employees, because I'm not the owner. I'm just the manager, just the property manager, okay? Against any claims, losses, because the first thing they're going to worry about is not your house. They're going to worry about their stuff, right? Oh, I got bed bugs or whatever in my stuff. It's crazy. So I'll tell you right now, I was just talking earlier today with somebody that called somebody in. And of course, we have Stanchion and Son. They all have lists of what the tenant has to do. You have to take all your stuff and put it through a hot dryer and then bag it before you bring it back in. You have to turn your drawers upside down and empty them. You have to turn your chairs upside down. You have to be able to get to all around the edge of the rooms, things like that. So they're not following protocol. You know, your pest man goes in and says, there's not much, you know, you're spending all this money for me to go and do it, and I can't even get the perimeter of the room. So who's at fault? You are. They're just, you know, that's because they think you are. So they're going to quit paying rent. They're going to try and sue you. They're going to do all kinds of things. So again, here's where you said that you are indemnified from any of these. And of course, the fact that you keep the notices from the pest guy that said I couldn't go in. I said, write that on the bill, please, or write it on the bill that I'm not going to pay, or whatever. You write it down and you keep it in the file. And if worse comes to worse, you need to get them out there if they aren't complying anyhow, because all the rest of the units are going to get it. Or it's going to get so infested you won't be able to use the property for quite some time. Failure to promptly report pests. This tells what happens. They can't hide it. They need to let you know. And it also breaches the contract. So you can actually get them out on that. But of course, it's a bonus if they quit paying rent, because then you can get them out a whole lot quicker than doing the 30-day. You can do a 3-day for non-payment of rent, so they've just given you a bonus. Most of them don't go and put it in escrow like they're supposed to, because they're just looking for a reason anyhow to be able to be there for free. So don't be the good guy from jail, okay? All right. You can't stay with them 24/7, but you can give them the rules, and these are why we have rules of the house. Kerosene heaters, appliances, generators. How many? 2, I think, landlords went to jail because during the freeze a couple years ago, they gave a generator to their tenant. The tenant brought it into the house, and of course they died. The landlord didn't bring it in the house. So one had it in a garage and one brought it into the house, and again, went to sleep and just didn't wake up. So you need to notify him. You need to tell him you can't do those things. We give out heaters, but we give out the safety ones that if they so much as teeter it a little, it quits working. It's got the little safety switch on the bottom. So, we want to help, but come on. You got to think about it. Water beds? Yeah. Water beds is still in my lease. That tells you how long I've been doing it, right? But really, it's not about the water beds. It's about the weight. So it doesn't matter if it's a huge tank of, I don't know, fish, snakes, turtles, whatever. That water turns to algae, turns into your walls, the same as mold. If it breaks, now you've got water damage. There's all kinds of things. So it doesn't matter. It's anything that's bigger than your car. Yeah, we've had freezers bigger than my car. So this just says that they need to be, just like pets, they need to be on their renter's insurance. And I need to know. Sometimes my insurance company wants to know if there's something unusual, especially if they're putting it up on a second floor. It's just the damage is gonna filter down. Junkyard vehicles, any vehicle that's not mobile. Has anybody found a way to get rid of those? Anybody willing to say how they get rid of those? They always have a reason. We're going to get rid of it. We're going to fix it. We're going to whatever. I have cut one in half. It was there they moved out. It was probably there for 10 years in the backyard. Didn't even know it was the backyard. So I just went across the roof line. Because they wouldn't take it back then, they wouldn't take it without a title. Okay. Microphone. This is going, you guys are being streamed. So if I didn't tell you before, watch your language. All right? Behave yourself. This is being streamed all over the U.S. Go ahead.
They do need to keep that vehicle registered. If they don't have a current registration,
Okay.
you can have it towed.
Yep.
Even if it's on the property.
Yep. Another way to get it towed is if you can get it in neutral and park it on the street. Just push it to the street, push it to the alley. Then you can be a little old lady calling, I can't get by, there's this car out here and it's scaring me. So you can push them to the street. You didn't hear me say that, right? But yeah, I have. Okay, what else have we got here? Oh, they've even got it there in print. Block that out. And we got white out. All right. Did one of your tenants win a prize for the tallest weeds in the neighborhood? Sooner or later, right? So again, you put the notice on the door, tell them you're going to send somebody out, on the weekend or whatever, however many days. So now you've given notice. See? You've given legal notice. You don't have to confront them. You put it on the door, says it's going to be done by such and such. Because if the city comes out and does it, we had a little one that's about, let's see, from here to her, right? From me to the microphone, that was the front yard. $600. If the city comes out and does it, they can charge whatever the heck they want to charge. They can't even get their own done right now, so maybe you've got a little freedom at the moment. But of course, in the meantime, you're getting mice and rats and everything else, and the neighbors are having fits. So again, just post a notice, all right? Give them a chance to take care of it. If they don't take care of it, you take care of it, and then if they don't pay the bill that you give them, then it comes out of. My senior is very reasonable. I sent him out to do one, and he charged him $35, and he even weed whipped the whole edge of it. And I'm going, oh my gosh. I don't want to yell at him. He doesn't charge me a whole lot either for the vacant houses. So, but they don't get that high. So again, think about it. How do I get them to pay? That's that very first one we told you. That is deduct from the rent. Send them a notice. Give them notice that that's what you're going to do, and do it. And of course, your lease already says. Now that I've learned how to do the snapshot on your phone, I'll snap that little part of their lease, send it to their text. See, I'm learning. All right. Do basements leak in Toledo? Who just came up here at halftime? Okay. Yes. The first thing mine says, we're built over the Black Swamp area. I do not guarantee even the finished basements, because as soon as you do, it's going to leak. She had a fireman a couple doors down. They peppered that house down there for hours. And after all the rainy season we've had, guess what happened? Of course. So there's always going to be something. So we're not saying it's not going to happen. We're just saying management in no way warrants any basements against leakage of any kind. That means backups or whatever. This should be in your printout for you too. Septic systems. Thank goodness most of us don't have those, because those are really a pain if you have to dig them up. But requirements too, I mean, I just stopped at one on the way here, and they had toilet paper all over the place. And I picked this toilet paper up to move it out, and it must have been like 4-ply. And I'm thinking, no wonder the toilets don't work. Good Lord, my paper towels aren't this thick. So again, especially if you have septic systems, you might want to put in there that the paper has to have the septic stamp on it. And 90% of your toilet papers do. You just never noticed it before. But again, that is nice. I would like all my tenants to use the septic safe ones, because they don't clog things up. They dissolve. Oh, just like public bathrooms. Again, you can't abuse the system. I tell them, even though I've got new sinks, I've got new fancy faucets, the city doesn't have nothing new. So once it goes past the drain into the city stuff, you still got 200-year-old system. So don't put anything down there except for water. I actually pulled out and do not have any garbage disposals. Haven't had garbage disposals for 20 years. I actually only have 1 or 2 dishwashers too. But again, they just abuse them and don't know how to use them, aren't willing to learn how to use them. So that's how we do ours. Comfort and service animals. Oh my gosh, we had a whole meeting on this. How many people were here for the fair housing? Okay, they just asked to see Toledo real estate investors this week. So I can only imagine what's new, what's crazy. What I can tell you from that meeting that we had, and this is a good clause to have in there, it's the same as if you have extra people. Number 1, we have a pet agreement. I believe I have a pet agreement here. Would you like a pet agreement? Okay. Mine's pretty much the city rules that tells them what they have to do. If they're in a multi-unit, just as if they're walking down the sidewalk, they need to pick it up as soon as it drops. That's the city law, that's our law. It is a city ordinance. I actually snapped a picture of a guy, and I was in my car, so I went all the way. He says, "You don't own that building?" And I snapped his picture going, "No, I'll bet you, if nothing else, he'll never come back and do it at that house." So, of course, I'm the one that, if I think there's drug thingies going on, I'll stand out in the street and take pictures of license plates. They go away and never come back, but I was told that's not even cool for a concealed carry person, so. So we got the city's pet rules on here, and they sign this right along with their lease. It says what pet's there, what's the description of the pet, what's the name of the pet. Okay? So this gives you the ability, if anything goes wrong, to have the pets removed. And it also has the same rules as extra people. It's $50 a month and a $50 deposit. And of course, that can be anybody. I quit doing just deposits a long time ago, because at least $50 a month buys a whole room of new carpet if I want it, right? Although I don't think I have any carpet left. We're just about all done with carpets, I believe. Thank you very much, Mike. On the back of that, I put a roommate agreement. Let's finish with the annoying critters first, though. So this tells that if it's so much as annoying or bothersome to the surrounding people, you have the right to say they immediately move. They go. They're gone. So this behooves them to make sure that that pet isn't bothering anybody, right? And if it's a comfort pet, it shouldn't be bothering anybody. It should be trained. Comfort pets, according to the description of fair housing in Toledo. And why do we listen to fair housing? Toledo's fair housing is not a direct department of HUD and the regular fair housing. They are like an orbital company, which means they get their salaries by suing you. That's how they support themselves. So that's why we listen. Now, one of the nice things about comfort pets is you can require a certificate. Of course, anybody can go online and get a certificate, right? You don't, one of the things I try not to do is I don't educate my tenants. I let them fall apart first. Because if they're doing something that's right, I can tell when they give me the paperwork, right? If they're doing something underhanded, that shows up in the paperwork too. It says, like, I think I got one that said D period R period. Like I was supposed to read that as if it was a doctor, right? The initials were D period R period. But again, it needs to be a local doctor or physician that is saying that they need this particular animal, okay? And I think it says renewable every 6 months. So you have to be able to call this doctor and say, I'm not asking any medical information or what the problem is. Those are HEPA laws. You can't go into any of that. But you can say, did you verify that a pet was needed for this person? Okay? And normally nowadays on Google, you can look them up and see if they are a doctor, or psychiatrist, or whatever. I mean, I'm to the point where I don't think boa constrictors are comfort for anybody, but or pigs, or cattle, or don't laugh. I just had to put out 6 chickens and 4 cats. Okay. All right. Renter's insurance. Again, Rent Perfect's got it for $5. If they have a license and a car, their car insurance has it, usually at a reasonable rate. It might give them what they call multiple policies and give them a discount even on their cars or whatever, So again, this lets you know, and I always want their pets on renter's insurance. And I like renter's insurance through Rent Perfect because they automatically put my name on there. Holding over. Should the resident hold over on a property after the expiration term? Possession is not considered renewal, but once you start accepting rent, you are accepting renewal. I've got a client, one of our members right now, her husband's passed away. I'm going through all her leases, and none of the leases are the same. And one of them says that the lease is automatically renewing yearly, and she's trying to sell the property. Well, here came July 1st, and her lease is renewed for another year. And this is something that she never handled. You know, he did. And the leases are not necessarily going up, but I mean, that just eliminates all your homeowners. Are they going to wait for a year to get into their property? Or if it renews again and again? So again, think about it. Month to month is not all bad. They can leave anytime they want to, really. What hold have you got except for a piece of paper? So again, it depends on the tenant. If you want to renew for a year and change the price, anything like that. But if you want to go month to month, I've got no problem with that either. Because it says right in there that it doesn't, I have no control over what gets voted in every November. Now they vote, what, 3 times a year or something? November, they voted in 11 things. New parks, old parks, COSI, libraries, schools. Where do you think all those go? Property taxes. So I let them know, if you're going month to month, the rent is month to month. Now again, I usually have no problem unless things go crazy. Right now, everybody in the areas that's anywhere near a creek just got a notice from 4 different counties that they're going to do another taxation without representation. So those might end up going up if we get hit with property taxes again on that. So again, that gives you the ability to do anything you want also. With a month-to-month, they can give 30-day notice. Well, actually, my lease says 60. They have to give me 60-day notice and allow me to show the property. You can give 30-day notice. Just there's a little caveat to that. Put a little star on it. If you're going to give them 30-day notice to leave, give it to them before the 1st. If their pay date is the 1st, give it to them before the 1st, then their 30 days will start the next month. All right, the 30 days will start on the 1st, and it'll be the next month. If you give it to them on the 2nd, you got to skip that whole month, and their 30 days start on the 1st of the next month. Kind of follow me on that? Yeah, okay, all right. What else we got here? Right of access. This is all attitude, guys. We mentioned this before. You are not asking permission to enter the property. So don't act like you're asking permission to enter the property. You're posting the notice and you're saying there's going to be an inspection at such and such a time tomorrow. I like to hand it to them rather than post it, but either one's acceptable. But the reason I like to hand it to them if they're not expecting it is because then if they can say, JoJo's birthday party's at that time, I'll rearrange. I got no problem with that. I'll say, oh, let me check with the office and we'll see if we can put somebody else in front of you and you can be next. Am I going to do all that? Maybe not. Am I making the tenant feel good and wanted and cared about? Yes, I am. You know, so always put it forth in a positive way. Again, you're not asking permission, though. You're letting them know. You're giving them notification. And it's your attitude and your presence more than anything that makes that work. Okay, abandonment. This is for all those that didn't pay attention to your move out clean letter, okay? But more than that, this is where you don't even know, are the people still living there? Are they not still living there? Do they want this stuff? Do they not want this stuff? I'm in my 70s. I don't want any of this stuff. If I keep anything, it's probably the Ajax cleaner that's underneath the sink, really, you know, and maybe a few scrub thingies. That's just so I don't have to go home and get it, you know. So again, this lets them know. And everything else. I wish we had, does anybody here own a consignment shop? Really, I would love to call anybody with a consignment shop and say, come and take all this furniture. If you can sell it, give me a couple bucks. If you can't, don't. I just set out a full dresser with a fancy top to it, a 4-poster bed with the posters are this big, a roll-up bed. Oh, it had a 3rd dresser to it too. Just, a big round table with the chairs, just all that. So I called one of my tenants that was doing assisted living, and she came and got it because I didn't want to squeeze it through that doorway. I didn't want it. But I hate to put it out in the pouring down rain that we've got too. It's like, come and get it, please, anybody. So that's one of the businesses we got to start, a garage sale or a consignment shop. I mean, the amount of kids' toys is just unbelievable. Okay. So this gives you the ability, and we actually had, who was it? Was it you, Karen? Somebody took it to an attorney. Oh, and it was Kim Lorenz. Kim Lorenz took it to an attorney and had it done up as an abandonment. And I liked it so well, I just put it in my lease. And then when I want to go into a property and I don't know what's going on, I just blow it up to a regular sized piece of paper, post it on the door, and then if it's bad enough that I still don't know what's going on, are they just avoiding me or whatever? Are we turning off the sound on this one? I'll change the locks. Call in for a police report, because you don't just change the locks, right? I'll change the locks, call in a police report that somebody's breaking in and we want to secure the property. And then in every door we put a notice with our phone number, call us for access anytime you want, 24 hours a day. And then we see if somebody's coming and going or what's going on. I mean, because I can't be by there 6 times a day, every day. Is somebody still living there or what? Well, then you've got something going. If somebody's going to go in, they're going to call you, right? They're not going to say they can't get in because you've got notices on every door. So that's one way to handle it. Oh, our latest one we've had to add, okay, is gender. Doesn't matter if it's he, she, or it. This means everybody. Is that simple enough? Okay? That's how I explain it when they're signing the contract. Doesn't matter who you are. We love you all. Sign this. You can go by whatever name you want. Okay? We just want to know it's a sign of the times, right? Uh-oh. That means it's Q&A time. Any questions or any problems that anybody has that they would like to throw out and get some answers to? We did the bud bugs. We did the water. Anybody else having a problem? Alice, you never have problems.
You know, when you were talking about you had checks and then you go to court and you determine, but with that pay to stay, you can't choose to not take the money, right?
Well, it wasn't they have late fees and court fees now.
So they just had part of the money.
No, they had their full rent, and they did have their 50-day late fee, but they didn't have the $5 a day late fee. They didn't have the court costs. They didn't have, so that was the time for them to pay up. They didn't show.
So with the mediator,
there's no mediator because they didn't show.
okay.
No mediator. Actually, they always ask you, they're like, did you try and work this out? What do they think we've been doing for months, right? But, okay, we want to be able to go in and say, yes, Judge. I offered him 3 different options. The option was, are you out? No, you're not. Does that mean, did you bring the money? No, you didn't. Well, we'll stretch it, and maybe instead of today, you can be out by this weekend or have the money by this weekend. No, you can't do that either. Sorry, Judge. We gave them 3 different options, and they won't do none of them. Make the options yours, not the judge's, not the tenant's. I had one tenant said, well, I can't even promise to pay $50. I guess then you're not making, that's not an option then, right? I'm going to try and get 3 more jobs. That's not an option. I need a time, a date, and an amount, again. So what do you think? Did you get some questions answered? Oh, are you saying because you want to go, or you got a question? You got a question? Oh, okay. Take the mics back. Jim. I'm not an attorney. Let me
Oh,
turn around
no.
and say that 3 times.
No,
I
was
am
gonna
not an attorney. I'm not
I
an
was gonna
attorney.
ask the question, or make a statement, actually. When you were talking about the septic system, about certain things going down there, wipes or whatever, even if you have a regular sewer system, city water, sewer, you
Right.
don't want to put those wipes.
Right, that's what mine
baby
says.
wipes. Okay, I heard it just for the
Yep.
septic. I didn't hear.
I said I prefer they use septic toilet paper even on regular. But if I have to have a guy out, I want it on the bill. When he's handing me the bill, I'm going to say, what'd you find? You know, I want him to say wipes or female products or whatever, diapers, whatever he found, I want it on the bill. Yes, sir.
I have 2 questions. Number 1 is, can we get
We
this?
charge for the second one, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Can we get this as a Word document so we can edit it and put it together for our own unique situation? Can we get it from the REIA site or something?
What are you holding up?
This is the thing you've been.
The PowerPoint?
Yeah.
No, I cannot.
Okay. And the second question, you kept mentioning late fees, but Matt,
Well,
why
let
is
me
it-
finish with your first one, just
Okay.
to say, my lease originally, before I made all the changes, was Lou Brown's. So it's copyrighted. But Lou Brown would share it with you in any kind of document that you want and make it out. And he has wonderful, wonderful programs. I have a whole book just on buy and hold. I have a whole book of his just on land trust. It's all the forms, digital, already filled out, and blank, so that you can just follow what he's doing. So he's excellent with forms.
Thanks. Second question is, you keep mentioning late fees, but Matt Weisenberger told me you can't collect late fees in court.
That's why I don't have, okay, my $50, if you don't pay on the first or before, is a bonus, not a late fee. My lease says $750. If the rent's $700, my lease says $750 with a bonus of $50 off. And if they question me at that time, they go, I thought you said this was only $700. Well, you were going to pay on time, weren't you? Try it. Come on. You were going to pay on time, weren't you? What are they going to say before they move in? Yes, of course I was going to pay on time. All right then, your rent will only be $700. It's all in presentation, guys.
What about the daily fee?
The daily fee,
Is
I
there
would have,
anything-
you would take that to second cause. Take it to second cause. And let's talk about that too. Evictions right now are online, so you can do it at TMC/clerk, and under forms, and they have just an eviction, or they have an eviction in second cause. I always do second cause. It just went up from 20 bucks to 50. But here's the deal, guys. Once you evict them, now you're ready to go for damages and money. How are you going to get good service? You evicted them. Did they tell you where they went? Of course not. So if you want good service, I'm just telling you it's worth the extra couple of bucks just to get your rent back. And of course, if there's damages, I don't know what it is why is it as soon as they quit paying, instead of being grateful for being there for free, do they start damaging the property? Why? It's like they've lost all respect for the property. It's just amazing that, you know, I was in it when we were trying to work things out and everything was okay, but now that they've had it free for a month or two while we're going through the process, all of a sudden, you know, the doors are slammed through the walls and, you know, they let the dog on the carpet constantly or whatever. It's like, I don't get that. You're there for free. You think you would at least be, what'd I say? They're a different breed. There's a reason they're tenants. And then I have plenty of tenants that then are ready to do rent to own, land contract. This might not be their dream house, but it's their down payment on their next house. And they're perfectly happy to do that. Some just never see past payday. Kevin, do you have a microphone? Yeah, but I'm streaming you. You're not that loud.
You mentioned lease option. I have one that just broke the lease. They were there for 3 months. They put 4,000 down, but the one person that's moving out is not the one making the big money. The other one is. I mean, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. The one that's staying there is not making very much money. So did they violate their lease on the lease option, or do you know how that works?
I'm going to tell you the same thing about your leases, guys. I get calls all the time. What do I do? My first question back to you on every question is, what does your lease say? Your lease option should tell you what to do if they quit paying. It should tell you what to do if they split up. It should tell you if it doesn't, then you have to do something that at least doesn't violate what the lease says. Chances are, at that point, it's just a lease, so you can do a 3-day for non-payment. So at that point, if you think it's going to get messy, you hope they don't pay. So that's why I said it's a bonus when they don't pay. You now have the 3-day process that puts them in the mindset that this is a business. Every time I hand out an eviction notice, a 3-day eviction notice, do I say, this is your eviction notice? What else can you say? What else can you say to keep them from wanting to use 4-letter words and go in and break every window in the house? I say, here's your extension. You said that you can get it done, you need some more time. Here's your extension. Is it an extension? Sure it is. They were supposed to pay on the 1st, right? Now it's probably the 3rd, 4th, or 5th. You're giving them a 3-day notice, so you're giving them another, technically 5 days, because on a 3-day, you can't count the day you hand it to them, and you can't count the day that you tell them they have to be out. So you're giving them, I mean, I don't think you can go 5 days without hitting a weekend, so you're giving them an extension. Calm things down. Let them know what it really is. Don't have them go away mad and screaming because it's an eviction. It's not an eviction unless they don't pay. Mr. Sharma, please.
My situation was a little different.
They all are.
Like, I sent her a text on the 1st saying that my accountant never got a check from you. And she was yelling at me. All big paragraphs in my text message. Then
It's time to treat it like a business. Give her the notice.
what I did
Follow
was,
the rules of the notice.
then I talked with my attorney, created a 3-day notice, I pasted there, and then she was ignoring. And when that third
Well,
day,
ignoring is the opposite of the big long text. So you accomplished good.
no, my intention was not to remove her, but she was really, like very, very difficult. If she would have said me, I have a problem, I'm going through a little, financial this thing, I would have said no problem. Instead of 1, you pay on 10.
Okay.
But
Would-
she was not. She was
Yeah.
yelling at me.
So
and-
would the gas company do this? Would the gas company call and talk with her and try and work it out and expect her to be nice? No. Time to be a business. So you don't have to look at the text. If you want to text her back and say, I gave you an extension, I hope you can make it. Thank you.
I did not text it up. When I got a list of all F words in that,
Yeah.
I thought it's not worth talking with her.
Right. That's why I said, don't talk to her. Just send her back a final text that said, I gave you an extension. That's all I can do. Hopefully, we won't have to meet in court. You be the opposite. You just be a business. A business isn't going to cuss back at her.
Then she sent me the check
She sent you the check?
on the last day when that 3 days notice.
Yeah.
And she called me. She kept calling me. I was at work.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I'm helpless. And she said, I asked her, did you get the notice? Yes. The notice says that I have to pay in 3 days. I don't know what the notice says, but I'm helpless. Now my attorney will deal with
I don't
it.
understand your problem. If she sent the money, are you happy?
No?
Because
I want to get rid of her.
you wanted to get rid of her?
Because I don't want to see such a big paragraph when I said,
Oh, now see, you're not being a business. Doesn't matter. That should not be on your shoulder. All those cuss words and everything were her problem. Now you've taken on that problem. Shake it off. Don't let, I wouldn't be here in my mid-70s still doing this for 30 years if I took every problem that my tenants had and took it personal. That's their problem. Don't do that. You won't be a landlord, or now, what's the term? Gosh, they stole our terms. Housing provider. You won't be a housing provider for very long if you listen to everything that they have to say. You just do, you keep it a business, and you'll, everybody in this room, okay, 99.9% of you are positive-minded people. You wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be bettering yourself. You wouldn't look for better ways to do things. You would be home saying, she cussed at me. Should I just get rid of the house? You know, this is broken. Should I really want to do? You're not that type of people or you wouldn't be here. So it's time to give yourselves a round of applause. If I was younger, I'd pat myself on the back, but I can't do that anymore. So again, just being an investor of any kind, can you talk to anybody out there? Do they understand? Do they think you're nuts? Do they talk you down, talk you out of it? That doesn't work. You're wasting your money. And yet, where does every doctor, dentist, and successful person put their money? In real estate. Yes. How many of the 18,000 realtors out there even own their own homes? How many of them don't even get it? It's just a job or a hobby or a part-time job. You'll see people in here that were realtors until they became investors. Then they didn't want to do all the licensing and Con Ed. Believe me, I know. I still have 14 licenses, and I have to have 13 hours of continuing ed for every single one of those. But again, you guys can not listen to the radio if you're on the wrong station. You can't listen to the news ever. You can't listen to people that don't do it because they don't understand. They don't see it. You do. There's a million answers in this room. Not just what I said, but you heard Kathy pipe up and say how she did it. Every one of you do it different. You do it how it works for your business, and that's okay. That's wonderful. That's what it's all about.